Hey everybody, I'm Joe DeGanzik, and this is Smarter Home Life. It is that time of the month again for some smart home Q&A. Actually, it's a couple days behind schedule, but better late than never, right? So this, of course, is when I take your questions that I've received via email. Sometimes I get to the ones from the comments, but I'm trying to send people to actually send them in via the website, and that is smarterhomehelp.com. That actually goes to the Smarter Home Life website. It's just a shorter address to remember. So smarterhomehelp.com, there's a form right there. You can fill it out with whatever question you would like to ask, and usually I try to get back to you within a couple of days. If you've got a large, complicated project, difficult questions that can't be answered via email, which many times this happens, check the box for a dedicated consulting session, and many of you have, and those are a lot of fun. I get to know a little bit more about your project. We get to chit chat. It's really fantastic. In fact, someone just took advantage of that service overseas. So I'm now helping someone with working on the plans for the smart home and all the kind of the tech aspects of their new to be built kind of a manufactured home, but a really cool place overseas in Europe. So anyways, another great project. So we should dive right in. There's 3 questions and 1 follow-up this time. We've got some stuff on the new Fire TV Cube. We've got stuff with routines from Google Assistant, and we've got one other one on triggering things with Insteon keypads. So let's dive right into the update. If you remember from last month, Pete had emailed in saying he's got these various Google Home speakers throughout his home, and he had just moved in relatively recently to a home that had some already built-in speakers because it was a model home. And he was trying to figure out how does he take advantage of those speakers, but also link them up with his Google Home speakers that he had as well. My recommendation was to go ahead and get a Chromecast audio and set it up with an amplifier. And he might need to get several amplifiers depending on how he wanted to group those together. And then he could create audio groups within the Google Assistant app and go from there. So he liked my idea, and he took it and ran with it, and he's very happy with it. He included some wonderful pictures, not of his entire home, but of the install with, he's got an amp, and he's got the Chromecast set up and tied in to the speaker, to the individual speaker wire that's going to his different area. Different sections. Thank you, of course, Pete, for writing in originally and sharing these couple of pictures for me to share with the rest of the Smart Home Life audience, and I'm very happy that you're happy. And let's move on to the next question, or the first question of this month. Another Pete, actually, Peter from the UK. And so here we go. Hi, Joe. I love your YouTube channel. Well, thank you. I enjoy making these videos, so I'm glad at least one person enjoys them. I think a few people enjoy it. I wanted to ask about the Fire TV Cube. That would be this thing that I reviewed just about a week ago or so, and it's been that video has been well received by everyone. A couple notes on this thing is it's a dust magnet, it's a fingerprint magnet, and it's not actually a cube. It is kind of like, you know, on the top elevation, but it's actually not a full-size, an actual exact cube. Back to the question, I'm in the UK, so it is not available here yet, but what is the volume and sound like on the cube? If I bought one for the living room, I was wondering if I could replace my current Echo, an original Amazon Echo, altogether. The sound is quite good on the Echo, but I wouldn't really want 2 devices in the living room competing for who would answer me. So if I only had the cube, what would playing the music through the sound be like? It's an interesting question, and every time that I've run this, and I did this with podcasts, I did it with video. So the speaker is on the bottom. You can see that there's the little speaker grill. If I kind of pull this close to the camera there, you can kind of see that. That is where the sound comes out, because obviously it can't come out really anywhere else. You've got the array of the 8 mics on the top. See if that'll focus nicely. So you can see they're all kind of in a row, 4 and 4. So the sound comes out the bottom. It's equivalent to, I would say it's between an Echo Dot and a Google Home Mini. But you don't really hear it that often. You hear her say, okay, if you ask it to, you know, what's her name, or you know, I have this set to computer. If you say, you know, turn on the TV, or, you know, turn on this input, as long as the device that this is connected to via the HDMI cable, if it is turned off, this is going to go ahead and activate and actually talk to you through it. If you give it just regular silly commands like, you know, turn the lights on, or what's the weather today, or something like that, that does not require it, or that it does not want to think, I want to send this audio through the connected device, whether that's your TV or, you know, TV and then routed through a sound bar for the audio. As long as it doesn't think that, it will respond to you. But again, that may not be all the time. And as soon as you ask it to play a video, a title, a podcast, any kind of media, it's going to default to trying to turn on your various components. So the answer is, the sound is okay, but again, it's not going to send it through. And there's no, other than the HDMI, there is no other like dedicated audio out jack. There's no optical or anything. I mean, I suppose you could unplug the HDMI cable and force it to like do the music through the device, but it's not going to be room-filling sound. It's certainly not going to be the audio quality of the original Echo or the new full-sized Echo either. It really is a slightly upgraded Echo Dot. Amazon actually specifically says that you should just, if you've already got an Echo in the same room, that you're going to place one of these Fire TV cubes, or I like to call it the Echo Cube. If you have it in the same room, that Amazon literally says on its page, just relocate your Echo, you know, repurpose it to another room. Or I guess if you don't need to do that, and you could get rid of it. The other thing is, this does have that ESP technology, so if you've got multiple Echo devices, you know, the one that is closest to you should respond. You can actually, there's a setting in this. I couldn't include all this data, all this detail into the review, because the review, of course, had to be relatively short. There's a setting within this device that you can tell this to be the default listener and responder. I guess not listener, but you can tell this to be the default responder if there are other Echo devices. So it can kind of override it. That is that question. Thank you so much, Peter, for writing in. And I think what we'll do right now is let's just pause for a station break, shall we? So a really quick little house ad. I'd like to talk about the show kind of and how you can support the show if you would like. Smarter Home Life is part of what I do for a living. It's not like some little side hobby. And so I ask, there's a number of different ways that you can support the show. If you'd like to help in a more direct way, Patreon is a great platform that helps creators just like myself and many others. Basically pay the bills every month. It kind of comes down to that. Products like buying the, I was going to say the Echo Cube, the good old Fire TV Cube, and other things. There's a brand new, if you can also hear, if you've been a fan of Smarter Home Life for a while, you've noticed that with there was a switchover that happened with the getting started with the Smarter Home series, with the Smart Home series that came out in late June, that you'll notice right now. You can probably hear a pin drop. There's an audio upgrade. I'm actually now using some of the audio equipment that Marcus Brownlee, MKBHD, uses himself. It was one of the final upgrades that I kind of waited for a while until there was some just some right moments to happen to make that possible. But Patreon helps pay for those kind of upgrades, just so that you know I'm continuously working on the quality of the show, not just the content, but actually how it's produced and the hardware and all the systems that that I use to actually make this content. And so Patreon's a great way. A couple bucks a month, you control the budget. Patreon.com/smarterhomelife is the place to go. And I would love to have your support and to be part of our little Patreon community. I share special updates during the month, and usually there's a couple of also little extra features. If you would like, I'm starting something new personally in a few weeks near the end of July. If you'd like to follow what I'm up to personally, which is not necessarily that exciting, I'm starting a new vlog. I hate that term, but that's what we call it. And it'll be tied to a website as well, but my own personal YouTube channel will host something new called Joe's Thoughts. It'll launch near the end of July. It'll be all different types of topics and also some information and kind of my own story of going from kind of a just a plain geek guy, slave to the cubicle life, and now actually a creator and smart home guy. It might be interesting. You can check that out at joesthoughts.com or follow me on Twitter for updates at NidoCayman or even Instagram, and you know what to do. All right, how sad is over. Let's move on to the last two questions. Okay, so the second question comes from, and I asked them for how to pronounce their name, and I'm probably going to butcher it anyways. It's either she or she tij. The J could be silent or could be pronounced. I don't know. Let me know. Let me know. Email me back and let me know how I did. Hey Joe, I love your channel and have learned most of my smart home tricks from you. That is fantastic. That was like the whole concept of doing this whole thing. So that's fantastic. I wanted to ask if you're aware of a method to trigger Google routines using either a sensor or a button or even a schedule. Currently, I have my routines working using voice commands. What I'm looking to do is to have the routines trigger when it's morning. Would you have any insights, or are you aware of a better way to do so? Okay, well, and I'm going to try to cut my response down, of course. And as I always say, and as I mentioned during the Getting Started with the Smart Home series, these assistants are wonderful. Lady A, and of course, Google. I've got my Google Home sitting over there, and I've got a couple other minis. They're wonderful little voice assistants, but they're not quite keen. They're not quite ready to command your entire smart home just like a regular smart home controller would. And the reason is because, well, they're just not quite there. But you can do quite a bit of it, but not everything. So it's not a surprise that when Google and Amazon launch something like routines, which let you have a custom voice command, and then the routine will kick off a number of smart home actions. It could get the weather for you, start reading news, start a playlist, a number of things. And they are very helpful, and Amazon and Google are kind of taking baby steps with this whole smart home thing. I think many of us would like them to take a few larger steps, but we'll deal with it for now. So this is a really great question, because people are saying, okay, the routines are great, but I want to use them in another way. Like, I don't have a smart home hub, so this is kind of a virtual smart home hub. Can't I do more with it? Well, the answer currently, at least for now, is no. So here is one answer though. Google doesn't let you schedule the routines as of yet, but they will be letting you schedule those by the end of the summer. They announced it around the time of Google I/O, but it wasn't included in their big keynote. It was picked up by some of the news publications. So later this summer, you'll be able to schedule Google routines instead of just having to come up with a word. The other thing that they did, and kind of didn't really make a big announcement about this either. I believe it was May or sometime just before May. So it used to be that there were the 6 examples of what you could do with a Google routine, Google Assistant routine, my apologies. And now they've opened it up so that if you just want to create a custom routine, call it whatever you like, and you can call it a number of different things as well to trigger the routine. You don't have to choose from their 6 examples that kind of lock you in a way. You can literally go in and just tap the plus icon in the Google Assistant app, and boom, you can just start creating your own routines. So currently, a little more customization coming later this summer, scheduling. Now, Amazon has had scheduling for a number of months. They introduced routines basically late last year, kind of in conjunction with those new products, and they let you schedule them. So you specifically said you'd like to have it trigger when it's morning, so you would definitely be able to do that with Google, but you can do it right now with Alexa. So let's see. Now we go to sensors and buttons. And I got in a little bit of a debate with someone who called me out kind of trying to not give great information on the smart home getting started guide when I said you can't connect sensors to the Echo or to Google Assistant. And of course someone said, well, hey, there's these sensors that you can connect to the Google Assistant and to IFTTT. And I'm like, okay, all right. So I will say thank you for pointing it out, but all you can do with those sensors and their skills is ask the status of the sensor. Now that could be helpful. Maybe you're going to sleep and you want to ask, what's her name? Hey, are all the doors locked? Are all the doors closed? Are all the windows closed? But really, sensors sense something and they trigger something to happen. So that's how they're really helpful. I mean, I guess you could ask it every night, hey, are all the doors closed? Okay. Or all the, you can't really do anything about it. Or you tell your significant other, will you please get up and close the doors that are not open or that are not closed? But really, sensors are helpful to actually trigger things to happen. That's the basic definition of a connected home where you're commanding things, and a smart home that starts taking care of things for you or alerting you to things that are happening behind the scenes. So the challenge is, even if you do find these Wi-Fi based sensors, which because they're Wi-Fi, they probably have not the greatest battery life. If you connect these sensors to one of these assistants or even to IFTTT, maybe IFTTT might trigger based on it. But if you connect them to your smart assistant, they're just not going to do anything, because the structure for handling sensor data, for actually handling the interactivity and a sensor saying, hey, there's a flood in the bathroom, and sending it to the assistant, it just doesn't even work at this point. And you can try this yourself. If you have a hub of some kind, like SmartThings or a Wink or Lowe's Iris, connect that hub up, if you haven't already, to your Google or to your Amazon, and you'll notice that the sensors are absent. They just don't exist because they can't provide that data, because Google and Amazon just aren't built for it, or they might be built for it and they're not ready to make that next step in the smart home. Of course, the Echo Plus, which some of us were excited about last fall, still has kind of fallen short, even though it has a Zigbee radio on board, so it can actually act as a smart home hub. The Echo Plus right now still only supports lights, locks, switches, wall like dimmers and switches, and then of course smart plugs. It does not support any sensor devices and doesn't support anything outside of those 4 categories. A lot more products right now on their support page they're kind of in its library, but it just doesn't support sensors. So my guess is they're just not ready to move ahead with that. And the Google Home and pretty much all of the other Echo products don't have any kind of Z-Wave or Zigbee radios to support sensors. Sensors tend to be battery operated. They tend to be using the smart home protocols like the ones that I just mentioned. They're mesh networking, they're very low power, they're super efficient. Those radios are not on board those assistant speakers, and so therefore they just can't speak the language and it won't work. If Amazon and Google really want to get into the smart home game, my guess is they're going to have to introduce some type of add-on dedicated smart home device that would interface to those radios and go from there. Will they do that? I don't know. It's not really a sexy kind of thing to introduce. And for most consumers, they're going to say, well, what the hell is this Zigbee or this Z-Wave thing, right? So I don't want to get into a super long response. It's kind of a long-winded response to this. But at the end of the day, sensors can't be paired for interactive responses with these assistant devices. But as I say that, but think about this. The reason why the Nest Protect devices are kind of cool if you have enough of them is they can say something like, there's smoke in the kitchen. It's giving you exact context instead of like turning all of your lights red and you going, wait, what does that mean again? Or instead of you setting up your smart home, if you have a smart home hub and so forth, to say, okay, if there's a flood in the bathroom, turn all the lights blue. And you think, wait, the lights are blue. What does that mean again? Like, let me look up my smart home rule book, right? if sensors could give an interactive, timely response to your smart speaker, and it said, there's a flood in the bathroom, or there's a flood in upstairs bathroom number 3 or something like that, that gives you exact context, exact information that you can act on. That would be really, really, really cool. So hey, Amazon and Google, get on it. And buttons aren't going to work either. Even Amazon's own buttons that they release, those colorful kind of fun LED buttons, they apparently only work with games, and you have to have a skill that's actually like actively running. So many of us thought, oh, you could use these as smart home buttons. Nope, not yet. So at this point, the last thing I'll say is, because the routines are proprietary to both platforms and they're kind of locked in and sandboxed, and they don't want you doing anything else with them until they're ready, we just can't do anything else with these routines until they're ready to let us do more with them. Thank you. I'm not going to try the name again, but thank you so much for writing in, letting me respond back to this question. The third and final question comes in from Jason, and Jason writes in, I am in need of some of your expertise here. I have slowly pieced my smart home together using Hue bulbs, the MyQ garage door, Kevo smart lock, Nest thermostats, and Harmony for the physical stuff, and also a few Echo Dots. I've been wanting to get a few of the Insteon keypads for my home, specifically the 8 button, and be able to control everything mentioned. Can this be done? If so, what is needed? I remember way back you did a video that showed those keypads controlling Hue bulbs, but for the life of me, I cannot find much more information on it. I love the idea to control lights, fan, possibly a scene for Harmony, and even door locks off of the keypads, and also through Alexa. Please help. I would be wary perhaps of using the keypads to control door locks. I always feel that should be a little bit more challenging to control door locks. Maybe if it's tied in a 1-button press to go ahead and lock everything, I would advise against anything that's going to unlock. An unlock command always needs to be under some kind of a little bit more secure. But otherwise, it's a great idea. And I guess I have myself to blame for this because, and I want to try to shorten this down. The video that I did, that he's referring to years ago, that I showed off Hue bulbs and other things being controlled by these Insteon keypads. Everyone loves the concept because the Insteon keypads are beautiful, they're elegant, they work really well. You can customize your own labels and change the colors, and they're just awesome. The problem is, to do all of that, it's just beyond the capabilities of most people because it requires a lot of programming and a custom setup. Even the Insteon hub that Insteon sells doesn't actually support, or they don't say that it supports Hue bulbs. It does support Nest thermostats and Harmony and Sonos and a few other integrations, but it just doesn't support everything. So my setup, because I've been doing this a long time, and in the smart home, even way back in the X10 days, I was always using a dedicated controller, and I had conditional schedules and triggers and all this stuff going on because I want it to work the way I want it to work, and I'm just not satisfied with using a generic hub or a smart speaker. So the challenge is, it's my fault for introducing everyone to this cool concept and then not being able to explain it. So the core of this message is, I would invite everyone, if possible, to try to go beyond just using a regular smart home hub. If you're interested and if you want to, please, I guess if you have the inclination, please try to learn something that's a bit more advanced. Learn perhaps some programming, some Python, some scripting language that will help you with these more advanced functions that you can really only do on an advanced controller, and I usually tend to mean software. With Insteon specifically, Insteon is a fantastic line of products. They're made by Insteon, they're serviced by Insteon, and they used to have a couple other companies that made Insteon products, but largely now it's back to just them. So this is the challenge where, Jason, you could do a lot of what you're mentioning because the Insteon hub does support Nest, it does support Harmony. It's not going to support the MyQ, it's probably not going to support the Kevo door lock. And some of those devices don't actually have interfaces to these other software systems either. Depends on how open the manufacturer is with their APIs. And I know I'm going kind of way over the heads of some of you who have gotten to the end of this video, but I do challenge you. The only real way to make a smart home operate like the one that I have set up here is to do a lot of work, unfortunately. I mean, years from now with AI through Google and perhaps Amazon and Apple, we might be able to achieve some of this to where you can get all these different devices to all interact with each other, or seemingly interact with each other. Generally, they're controlled by a central system. But with AI, it could suggest things to you. It could suggest scheduling and scenes and things that you do on a regular basis and say, hey, you know, if you let me take care of it, I'll just go ahead and take care of this for you. And if you need to change it later, we'll change it later. That's what's coming, but it's going to take some time for all of that to sort out. And for some things, I still feel that having a dedicated device or controller, or perhaps a tiny PC or a Mac sitting somewhere in your home, at least for now, that's going to run some pretty powerful software to do the smart home stuff that you really want to do. And right now, it's kind of the only, right now for the next couple of years, I still feel it's really the only way to do it. The only way to do a lot of the customization that I've done with these keypads and the controls and controlling multiple different types of systems and maintaining the states of all these devices and then relaying them back to either the Indigo mobile app or the keypads is through a tremendous amount of work with conditional triggers and scheduling and statuses and custom variables. And you might say, well, Joe, couldn't you do that through something like SmartThings? They have a developer interface. The answer is SmartThings doesn't support Insteon, and it doesn't even support the Insteon hub. Some have tried to make a kludge to make that happen. It just doesn't work. And I do not like, I'm going to be, for people who don't need the advanced programming or the advanced developer interface of SmartThings, I'm probably going to be pushing people more towards Wink. It's a simpler hub to use, and it does support a lot of devices. I personally don't like the development interface within SmartThings and the fact that it's basically all cloud-based. And it's just not set up the same way with Indigo, where you even have access to variables very easily. And you need that in a smart home. You have to maintain the states of things and colors and dimmer statuses, that if the system doesn't support it for you in the way that you need to do it, you have to do it yourself. You have to build it yourself. These platforms, these hubs and so forth, they might come with some suggestions of what you could do, but most of what you have to do with these smart home systems and controllers, you have to build it yourself. Like, it just doesn't build itself. So that is, again, the long-winded answer to your question, Jason. Right now, for what you want to do, if you'd like a simpler way to do this, I would suggest getting the Insteon hub. You'll be able to interact with the keypads, and you'll be able to do some of what you'd like to do. If you want to do more of what you want to do, and you're up to learning some programming, I would suggest jumping into the world of Home Assistant, the ISY99 device, or possibly Indigo if you're on the Mac, if you're in the Mac world. They're just really good platforms and really customizable. Yeah, they're not for the everyman, but I think more people should be learning some of this stuff and learn really how the underlying parts of your technology actually work. So there's my educational plea. But otherwise, great question. If you need some additional tips, email me back, and I'm happy to help out a little bit or set up a consultation, even better. So thank you, Jason, for writing in, and thank you to everyone for writing in, making these just more interesting. I love doing these Q&As. I think they're very helpful. So it's early July right now. I've got some great reviews coming this month. And I've got a really fun surprise kind of thing coming later this month as well. Remember, Prime Day is coming up next week. We believe it should be next this coming Tuesday. That would be, I think, the 10th of July, Amazon's big shopping day. Like, it's apparently bigger than like Black Friday, or they want it to be anyways. So if you'd like to use the affiliate links to do your shopping, please do head over to smarterhomelife.com/support and start your shopping from there. I'll be posting deals and information on social media, and possibly doing a video if we get wind of the deals before they are released. Otherwise, thank you for your support. Thanks for watching, and that wraps it up. smarterhomehelp.com. Send in your questions, set up a consulting session, and otherwise, I'm Jody Ganzik, and I'll see you next time.